Mm-mm. Hello, hello. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Hello, everyone who just tuned in. My name is Natalie Benoit, and I'm going to be hosting today's Pink Talks. And I'm really excited. Today is the first one of the month, July 1st. Typically, we do Pink Talks on Sunday nights, but on the first and last Wednesday of every month, we do an extra Pink Talk segment, typically with a social media influencer like you or a blogger. So I'm really excited for that. And to give everybody that's joining us a little bit of context, Pink Talks kind of started out as a platform to give women a place to show their skills, talk about what they're doing professionally, and overall just share their industry knowledge. And I'm really excited to be here with you today, Lauren. You are in the Salt Lake City area, and you are a full-time blogger. You run the Lauryncakes blog, and I have to say, I love your Instagram aesthetic. I was peeking through it before, and it looks great. And your blog is also really informative. I see that you're staying up to date with a bunch of the social movements. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I am just trying to involve myself in the social movements. I
Mhm.
thought that I was on top of things, but I guess you live and you learn, and that's part of becoming an ally, right? So,
Blogs. We're going to get into a few questions. We have a few viewers here. We're also live, everybody, on the Find Your ID NYC Facebook. So we're on two platforms right now. So if you see me looking one way and then the other, just know we both have a computer and a phone set up. So we're going to be looking back and forth. So I want to get started, if that's okay with you. I have a few questions. Hopefully people will submit their questions. Today we're going to be talking about what it's like for you to blog full time, as well as being in the beauty and style industry, as a writer, as a social media influencer, and how we can basically, be successful in those industries.
yeah, absolutely.
Great. So when I was reading up a little bit about you, in 2019, you actually decided to start blogging full time because previously I believe you were a teacher, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I taught
Yeah.
special education in high school.
Oh, wow. So what made you want to transition into blogging full time?
So I actually started my blog before I ever had my degree. I was in college and I would actually be in college classes blogging while the teacher was teaching.
Oh my gosh.
And I know I was a bad student, but I actually got good grades. So I put in the
Good. There
work
you go.
afterwards. Yeah.
There you go.
And after 4 years, that was my goal from the beginning, was to do 4 years. And
Mhm.
I just reevaluated and I was like, blogging is pulling in the same amount or more income. And I just felt like I could make more change through blogging.
Yeah.
Uh, I felt like with teaching, there was just a lot of red tape. And so it was hard to do things. And so I felt like blogging
Yeah.
was the best route to make change in the way that I wanted to.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I know that on your blog it says that you're all about empowering positivity. Would you say that's kind of the reason why you wanted to do more of, bringing out that positive energy to the people that you were, influencing and reaching out to?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a huge advocate for women empowerment. I think that it just comes
Yeah.
from kind of feeling like, I wouldn't say an outcast, but I felt like I didn't feel included as I was
Right.
growing up. And so I wanted to make a space for women that felt like they had a voice, that they could be confident, and it didn't have to fit into those specific boxes that the
Yeah.
media has told them to.
That is a really beautiful message. And I'm really glad that
Thank
you
you.
started your blog because, that just shows you have true intentions. And we talked about this a little bit before, but you have two bachelor's degree in education. You went into teaching, and that takes a lot of hard work for you to put in all that time and dedication into your own education. So do you see any of the skills and knowledge from your time in that field kind of help you now as a blogger?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the education that goes into teaching and getting a degree in that involves human development or behavior studies,
Mhm.
specifically in special education, which is what one of my degrees was. And so I feel like I have a better understanding of how to connect with people or how to approach people that come from different backgrounds, whether that's race or socioeconomic or just like a different upbringing. And I feel like teaching allowed me to have experiences that I wouldn't have had in the real world. So for the 4 years that I taught in a low-income high school. So that meant that I was able to, I grew up middle class. And so I feel like it gave me a different experience, and I was able to understand better what people are going through that didn't have the same type of upbringing that I did. And so teaching absolutely gave me more knowledge about how to interact with people and just be empathetic.
Right. It definitely seems like it helped, like you were saying, you becoming more empathetic, improving your ability to communicate with different types of people. And I feel like especially right now, we're seeing a lot, especially within young people, a lot more of us becoming more empathetic, more understanding of different situations. So it's good to hear that, you have such a big platform that you're able to teach that to others.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. I appreciate that comment.
Of course. And another big thing that I want to ask you about is blogging takes a lot of work. It's a lot of self-management and organization. So what steps did you take to get your blog up and running? I know you weren't doing it full-time at first, but to get it kind of started, do you remember what kind of steps you took to get that running?
Yeah. So I always tell people that if I'd if I'd known what I was getting into, I probably would have messed it up because I would have thought too hard about it. I feel like it was a learning process, and because I didn't know what I was doing, I allowed myself to have grace when I made mistakes, or that growth was more of, oh wow, I just learned something, rather than looking at the mistakes in the past. And so I think that whenever you're growing any type of business, it's important that you give yourself that room for error, so that you realize, growth is important, and I made those mistakes, but I've learned from it. And I feel like, I don't know if that answered your question. Did it answer your question?
It did. Yeah, okay. You learned how to grow. Would you say that when you were getting your blog started, did you use like a specific platform like Wix or Squarespace or WordPress? Like, what was it like on the technical side of things? Because I know for me, like, I have a website where I publish some stuff, and keeping that up to date is really hard, especially because sometimes you have to pour in money if you want, a better theme or a better way of making it look good. So in terms of that, like, was that hard to pick up on, and what kind of platform have you used?
So I started with Blogger, and I do not like change. So I stayed with Blogger for the longest time. And for those of you that don't know, Blogger is owned by Google. And if you use Blogger, it is a free platform. However, anything that you post on Blogger, technically Google owns. So if Google were to somehow decide they didn't want to have it anymore, or Google went under, which would never happen, all of that stuff that I had from my blog would be owned by them. And so I knew I needed to make the change to a self-hosted website. I knew I needed to do WordPress. And I also had heard that WordPress was better for SEO. So SEO is search engine optimization, which is when you Google or type into any search engine, the order that things pop up on that search engine is search engine optimization. It's just how you rank for credibility or reliability, anything like that. So eventually, I think it was just last year, I decided to go into WordPress because I needed to do self-hosted, and it was a huge learning process. My husband actually does SEO for a living. And
that's good. That's a good, that's a great tool. And someone
I know. I sometimes feel bad because I'm always asking him questions. I'm like, can you help me with this? So he helped me integrate the website, but without him, it would have been really hard. And that's coming from somebody. I did Neopets when I was younger. Do you know what Neopets is?
No, I do. Yes. I know Neopets. I know Neopets, yes.
So I totally learned HTML from Neopets. But I'd forgotten it, and I needed his help all throughout. So changing to WordPress was really difficult, and I had to relearn the entire backend interface.
Right.
And even sometimes now I find myself a little frustrated, like, because I'm still trying to learn and master it, because it's a whole new world.
Exactly. And I feel like with bloggers, people always focus on like what's being written, the content, but not what's happening behind the scenes. like the HTML, the coding, like you said, those are hard skills to learn. And, people go to school, get an education specifically in coding or HTML. So for you to try and relearn that to get it up and running, would you say that's a skill that maybe most bloggers could kind of benefit from?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Wow. So, and you also mentioned, so what are some of the issues you might come across when you are blogging? Do you ever run into, like a writer's block situation, or you're unable to find inspiration, or, some of those obstacles, if you could elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, I hit writer's block all the time. I think that I'm an eloquent writer when I have an idea, whereas when it's time to write, it doesn't always come. And so for me, I have to keep a running list on my phone just because that's the most accessible item for me. Whenever I have an idea for a blog post, I write it down on that list. That way, when I need to write a blog post, I'm like, that idea that I was going to go over. Sometimes I write it more specifically in a detailed list on my phone notes. But yeah, writer's block is a real thing. And even more so when you're blogging, you're not just writing, you want to hit that search engine optimization, like I said. Unless you're writing an anecdote or a story, you really want to provide information and a service to whoever's reading your blog. So you want to make sure that you're including all of that. And it can be hard to remember to put that into every single blog post.
Yeah. And if you're like, you're posting things like multiple times a day, to have to do that every single time, again, like that's organization, time management. I'm assuming those are other really important skills that, you've kind of worked on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely don't post on my blog every day. I couldn't handle that.
That would take a lot.
Yeah, I don't know how people do that. But absolutely, time organization is a huge thing for me. And especially when you're running your own business, anything that you do is helping your own success. So it's important that you plan that out.
Yeah, exactly. And, if people are tuning in just now, I'm just going to give a quick little update. I am Natalie Benoit. I'm hosting our first Pink Talks for the month of July. We usually have them on Sunday nights, but we also have it on the first and last Wednesday of every month. And tonight, Lauren Hawk is joining me from Salt Lake City. I'm all the way in Jersey, so we have a little bit of a time difference. But honestly, this is great because you're here to tell us, what it's like to blog, give us some insight on your experiences as a social media influencer. And it's just a pleasure to have you tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I wanted to ask you, like, going back again on time management, organization, you talked about some of the skills and tools you've used to kind of help yourself professionally. Would you say that something like Google Calendar or other things along those lines, do you use those a lot?
Absolutely. Everything is basically on my phone. I use my computer for organization, but not quite as much, just because I'm always within my reach of my phone. And so I plan everything in my phone. Like for tonight, I set this into my calendar as soon as I heard about it. And then I put alerts. So I put an alert the day before, and then I put an alert an hour before, and then an alert like 10 minutes before, just because, like sometimes you think you're prepared and you forget.
You never know. Yeah, or your Wi-Fi is cut out or something along those lines. But yeah, that's great. That's a great thing to have. I know that every once in a while, what I'll do is like I'll put an alarm maybe an hour before something, just to like jolt myself, like, oh, I have to run to this meeting in an hour. And the alarm, like, those alarms that go off in the morning, it like triggers me just enough to like respond right away. So I use those.
And as far as scheduling out like sponsorships, I include those on my notes on my phone too, because I feel like that's important to have on hand whenever I'm ready, or whenever I have a panic attack and I'm like, when is this sponsored post due? And I can look at my phone to see it.
That's smart. And you know what, now that you mentioned that, I did want to ask you a few questions related to, sponsorships and brand deals and things along those lines. Because I'm unfamiliar with all that. And I'm sure there's a few people watching that are unfamiliar with, the difference between a brand deal or a sponsorship and what the process is like. If you could explain that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So brand deals and sponsorships have been around for a very long time. They go back starting with celebrities, and I'm not a celebrity by any means, but celebrities were probably the first people that started doing sponsorships. And so basically a company reaches out to that celebrity and says, hey, will you endorse us? We like what you stand for. We like what you do. And we have the same mission going on. We think that it would work well if you talked about us, and possibly we'll talk about you too. So that's what a sponsorship is now. I'm going to say the word influencer. I know it can be kind of a hot topic in the industry, specifically like when I'm talking to brands, they refer to what I do as an influencer. That doesn't mean that I necessarily think that I influence a bunch of people.
Right.
But that is what I call myself, just like somebody might call themselves an actor or a dentist, you know?
Right.
So for influencers, brands will reach out to them and they'll say, hey, we would love to pay you to promote us with your audience. The great thing about influencers is that their audience is very niche and targeted because they have built this following based on what they stand for and their ideals. And so typically when a brand reaches out to them, it's because they really resonate with whatever they talk about. So for instance, when brands reach out to me, it's because they like women empowerment, or you know, body positivity, or maybe they liked that I was a teacher in the past, or you know, they just like that I promote
a common.
So they will pay me to promote their stuff on my feed or my stories, other social media, my blog, and I produce content for them. Right. I feel like I talked a lot. Did I answer your question?
No, you did. That was just great insight. Trust me, the more you talk, the more information you share with us, the more we're going to love it. I'm going to scroll up really quick here because I think someone asked a question. Yes. _QIII I think _, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, asked, what are some photo apps / camera do you use? So I guess like when you're using, like what filters and if there's a particular camera that you use.
Yes, this is a great question. So I actually wrote a blog post about what camera apps I use for editing for Instagram. So if you want to type into any search engine that you use, Lauryncakes apps, it'll probably pop up as a blog post. But just off the top of my head, I love to use Visco. Just when I have an iPhone photo that I want to edit. I love the app Unfold. It's a story app. So
I've heard of Unfold.
Yeah, I also use Storylux. So both of those are two of my favorites. Those are the ones that allow you to use frames for your stories. They have like picture frames. They make your stories cute. I use Reward Style. That's how I link to my outfits and I'm able to make affiliate income off of what I'm wearing. As far as editing, and I use Pixaloop. So this actually came up on my TikTok the other day. Somebody asked how I made my photos move. I posted a photo the other day where I had clouds moving in the background. And
I saw that. I was wondering, I'm not even lying. I saw that and I was like, how in the world do you do that? I was on Instagram for 30 minutes trying to figure out like, do I maybe like put a video in like a certain like frame or something? I had no idea. So yes, please explain that.
It's an incredible app. It's so cool. And I'm a huge cheapskate. I liked it so much that I paid $20 for the entire year to have it. So you can insert in backgrounds that move, including clouds. Today I was trying to do bubbles, but it didn't really work with my photo. So yeah, that's a great app that I like to use if you want to make a cinematograph.
And what was it called again, that app?
PIXALOOP, Pixaloop.
Cool. I'm going to be looking into that one. I don't have any storage on my phone, but I'm about to make some storage available because I really want to try that app.
I know. Every time I need more storage, I just need to buy a new phone.
Yeah, I feel that. I need to up my gigabytes. But, you know, going back, because I don't know if I missed any other questions, but until then, going back, I wanted to go back to the brand deals and the sponsorships that you talked about. I have such a hard time saying no to people. Have you ever had to say no to a sponsorship? And if you did, like, how did you go about it? And like how, you know what I'm saying? Because I personally, I have a hard time saying no. So, you know, as someone with getting a brand deal, have you ever had to say no or felt like you should?
Yeah, that is actually a great question. In the beginning of my blogging career, I feel like I said yes to a lot of partnerships that I wouldn't say yes to now. And that's just a learning
Right.
process. I was learning more about myself, more about my brand, more about what I wanted, the direction I wanted to go. But there was just one year that I was like, why am I spending all this time doing things for
Mm-hmm.
people that don't resonate with me, or maybe they're not paying me what I felt like I needed? And it was like a hard decision that I made, and I drew a line in the sand and I was like, I am no longer saying yes to brands that do not fit within what I want to say on my brand, or aren't paying me well enough to make my time worth it.
That's
And
the big one. Yes. Know your
yeah,
worth.
right. It made a huge difference. I feel like a lot of people that are blogging fall into this trap where they feel like, oh, nobody's offering me brand deals where they're paying and brands aren't appreciating me. But as soon as you start saying no, it's crazy. They start to realize your worth.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think that sometimes a lot of brands have the same marketing reps, and so they might know that you don't charge. So they
That
might,
much.
yeah, they might
I didn't
talk
know
to other
that.
people on their team, or maybe they've worked with you on something else and they're like, well, she didn't charge for this, so she won't charge for this.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you start to know your own worth, brands will start to see that. And yeah, I say no to brands all the time. I would say I say no to at least 5 a week, just because they
Wow.
don't fit within what I want to do with my brand, or they're not paying well enough that I want to focus my time on it, which is really important, because there's been a lot of times where I have been taking pictures for a brand and I'm getting frustrated with the amount of requirements that they have, or specifications. And I'm like,
Right.
I should have asked for more money,
Right.
And
Because
so
it takes up more of your time. Time is money.
absolutely. And so what I always ask myself before I say yes to a brand in an email is, would I be okay spending time on this brand rather than getting another brand deal? And so that is always, and there's even brands sometimes that you really want to work with, but they're not paying enough, and you still have to say no because they're not valuing you enough.
Yeah.
And I mean, that can leave a bad taste in your mouth. I've
Yeah.
I've had times where I've been like, okay, I don't really want to shop with this place anymore, because I had a bad
They
experience on
lowballed
the
you.
back end. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Would
the
you?
lighting's getting funny in my house because
No,
of
it's okay. My light's kind of flickering, so I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope nobody sees it flickering. But no worries, you're good. You look great.
Oh, thanks. So do you.
Thanks. I wanted to ask you, because you said that, on a weekly occasion, you might say no to like up to 5 brands. So how often do you say yes to a brand?
Oh, well, I mean, that also depends on a lot of factors. Blogging,
Right.
like any business, fluctuates. So there are seasons where it's more of there's more partnerships coming in. I find that around the holiday season, like November to December, there's a lot of partnerships because people want to sell more things. But also right now is kind of a busy season for me every year, just because the summer. So marketing budgets happen in quarters. And so they will set apart budgets for each quarter, and those will be different for each quarter based on what they want to sell. And so typically, from what I understand, it's summer and the beginning of winter when most of the budgets are allocated.
Okay.
So it totally depends. Like in January, I always feel like, are any brands going to reach out to me? Am I going to have any deals? And, you just kind of sit and wait. Some people like to do a lot of brand reach out, which I have done from time to time. So they'll specifically reach out to brands they want to work with and pitch to them. But that's time consuming, and you have to have thick skin for that because obviously brands are going to say no if you're reaching out to them. You're not always on the top of their mind. So how many brands do I say yes to in a week? I would say less than one, because I'm not getting lots of partnerships. And I also like to spread out my partnerships just because I don't want my audience to feel like they are inundated.
Bombarded.
Yeah. Nobody wants to see a completely sponsored feed.
That's good that you take that into account.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes people get kind of like focused on the money and of it all and not really like why they started, but it seems like you're very grounded in that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I see that over here on Facebook, Katie asked a question. Hi, Katie. She asked, how does this hard time / COVID affect your business and blogging?
A lot.
Yeah.
When COVID first happened, I kind of went into a little bit of so I talk about mental health on my blog a lot, and I have anxiety, and sometimes I can get depressed from my anxiety. I kind of went into a little bit of depression. I think a lot of people did when COVID started happening, just because the whole world was dealing with something that they hadn't before. But I had a lot of sponsorship deals that pulled out just because they didn't feel like it was a good time to talk about advertising, or sometimes they were reallocating their money to people that they didn't want to lay off, but they needed to pay still. So I had like a couple months where I didn't have any sponsorships, and I was like, is blogging over? Did I make the wrong decision to go full time? Mm-hmm. And so it was really difficult for me at first. And I kind of had to come to terms with, okay, I need to find my passion again. Because in the beginning, I didn't do this for money. I did this because I liked it. I liked to create content. I wanted to do something that made me happy. And so I needed to find that source again so that I could find the drive to continue making content, even though there was kind of no purpose anymore. And it was also hard because I felt like I was confined to my house. Well, I live in an apartment, not in a house.
But still, in your space, it's hard.
Yeah. So I definitely felt like I had to reshift my content and make it more, stay at home. And it was a really interesting time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw a lot of young people on TikTok, for example. I saw a lot of people expressing how, like you said, like mental health was a big thing when everything hit, because not only was it you're confined to your apartment or your home, like you said, but also if your family's impacted by the virus, or if you're really scared and your anxiety is bad about perhaps contracting the virus, that affects you. And I think a lot of people coped with like going on walks or being outdoors. Was there a certain way that you were able to cope?
Yeah, I am a huge. Before this whole virus happened, I loved going to studios to work out. That was how I got rid of like my anxiety, or if I was feeling, like kind of angsty. And so that was a big shift for me, learning to work out at home. Luckily, we have a balcony, and luckily it was warming up in Salt Lake City. So I started working out at home. We got a spin bike at our house. Nice. And so I absolutely use working out as a way to help my mental health. And I was just talking to my husband the other day, because working out isn't something that, for me at least, it's not always in a routine. Like sometimes you go like a week without working out. And my husband was like, I think that I was telling him that I needed to work out, but I didn't want to. And he was like, when I feel that way, usually it's because I need it the most. My mental health needs the workout the most. So I have also been going on hikes now. Back in March, I didn't feel like hiking was appropriate. Right. But now that it's like a little bit more, I don't know.
People are used to it.
Yeah, people know what's going on. Yeah. Yeah, I go hiking all the time. So
that's great.
Yeah.
I saw you post actually on your Instagram. You were, I don't know what it was called, but it was somewhere obviously in Salt Lake City, that you went hiking, and it was really pretty, like the view and the flowers.
Yeah, I feel lucky to live in Salt Lake. Not in the winter. I don't like the winter. But come springtime through the fall, Salt Lake City is beautiful, and there's so many places to explore. We have lakes, we have salt flats, we have mountains, we have like a ton of different terrains. And so I want to, I don't know if you've seen this, but I've been in a group for travel blogging with another, there's 7 of us, and we're trying to start a more diverse travel blogging group just because we feel like a lot of the blogging groups are not as diverse in regards to socioeconomic level or clothing size or race or religion. So we wanted to kind of bring that into the industry. And so I have wanted to explore my own home state more just because I'm like, well, if I'm traveling other places, why shouldn't I be exploring Utah, you know?
Nice.
So it's kind of invigorated my need to explore.
That's great. And you said something about like a blogging group. I've never heard of that before. Is that like when different bloggers in an area come together for a specific like piece or for a blog? Can you touch on that a little bit? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this blogging group specifically is actually women from all over the US, and none of them are from Utah. So we have from both coasts, and
Nice.
there are 7 of us, including myself, that we want to collaborate. We've been working on this since November to kind of make a travel blogging group, and then COVID hit, so it was kind of a bad time to do it. But we still talk all the time. It's called Babes That Wander, and so our whole goal is to travel together. So we will be meeting up in the same place and, you know, just creating content and traveling together.
That's great. So, and you said it's like across the US that there's 7 of you in total? Is there like a specific like website for Babes That Wander, or is it kind of just like right now like a group chat that you guys have, or is there like an Instagram or something?
Yeah, there is an Instagram. It's Babes That Wander, and there's also a website. I'm trying to pull it up so that I can. I don't know. Should I like enter it right here on the Instagram?
Yeah, if you want to type it in right there, Babes That Wander, so at least people can like see the Instagram. That'd be great. I'm gonna check it out.
Okay, awesome.
Have you heard of other like blogging groups? Like, is that typical for full-time bloggers?
So there are quite a few blogging groups. I think that there are many in areas where there's a lot of other creatives and bloggers. Salt Lake City has one. I can't remember what it's called. I think it might just be called Salt Lake City Babes. There's another one here. I'm going to cuss, but that's part of their name. It's called Bitches That Brunch.
That's okay, no worries.
That's another one that's in Salt Lake City. And yeah, there are a lot of different groups that women get together so that they can talk about what's going on, because blogging is a business and we need to be able to chat and work through like what's going on in our little world as well, just like anybody else.
Yeah, and you know, touching on that a little bit, it seems like you kind of found a group within Babes That Wander. So I'm just wondering, has there ever been, you know, a specific person or a group when you first started out that guided you or mentored you, or you maybe followed and learned a little bit from?
I wouldn't say that there was anybody that I followed specifically that helped me, but I wish that I'd had that. Yeah. Because I think that I was so nervous and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't take the leap into it, so I didn't want to put into any money into it before I knew what I was doing. But if I had, I would have learned quicker. So if you are interested in blogging, I would absolutely suggest getting a mentor, because time is money, and I should have put my money into having learned somebody else's mistakes, right?
Right. So would you say that, you know, if there's a young blogger out there that's watching or ends up going back to our Facebook videos or our IGTV, that you would be open to kind of mentoring or giving some tips to young bloggers starting out?
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a frequently asked questions part on my Instagram. It's just on the Instagram story highlights. And a lot of people that are interested in blogging have asked questions, and so I've answered them there. Sometimes my blog also has frequently asked questions. But if you ever have a question, feel free to DM me. I'm happy to answer them on there.
That is so kind. And I want to talk about a little bit about your blog specifically on
Hmm.
Lauryncakes because it seems like you focus a lot on beauty and style. So I'm just
Hmm.
wondering, do most of your posts, whether it's social media or your blog, do they center around those businesses or those industries?
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I include other things that sort of encompass beauty or fashion. Like I just did a sponsored post with a laundry company, but that has to do with fashion, or I will include food or workouts. I feel like I don't want to be boxed into just specifically beauty or fashion because I have so many things that go on in my life. So maybe I should be calling myself a lifestyle blogger because I talk about a lot of
Mm,
different things. But
right.
yeah.
That's great. And I'm just wondering with lifestyle pieces or beauty or fashion, obviously it's really important to keep up with what's trending or what's going on. So are there any specific resources or maybe magazines or ways that you keep up with what's going on?
That is an interesting question because I feel like I don't really keep up on what's going on. I
Fair,
used to
yeah.
read magazines a lot, but I have moved more into the digital world. As far
Mhm.
as keeping up on trends and stuff, I love Reddit. I feel like
Yes.
Reddit keeps me up on meme culture and what is cool. But I also just look for inspiration via other bloggers or,
Mhm.
cool people in the world that are posting on their social media because I feel like magazines are so outdated just because it takes them a while to publish. And the
Right.
digital media world can publish, you think something's cool and
Automatically.
the next day it's on a public forum and
Okay.
it could be going viral. So
Right.
I think that social media has changed the fashion industry. And yeah, I look on social media for fashion typically.
Nice. I think you mentioned using TikTok, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you ever I know I personally always find like memes or I figure out like what's because I'm only 21, like I'm not old, but I have a younger sister and I feel really old compared to her because she knows like all the stan language and all the like funny memes and stuff. So I'm just curious, for you, do you ever find yourself catching up on things on TikTok?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
um,
Mm,
yeah, TikTok keeps me young. And
yeah.
I feel like sometimes I'm like, why is this cool? And then it will have been on my feed a few times, and I'm like, all right, okay, this is cool.
Yeah. It's like, okay,
So,
I get it now.
yeah, exactly.
And I just wanted to ask you too, or I guess let me reintroduce in case people are tuning in now. But hi, everyone. This is Pink Talks. I'm Natalie Benoit. I'm hosting today's segment. I am with Lauren Hawk, the blogger for Lauryncakes, and you are in Salt Lake City. Are you in the city or are you like outside of like the greater Salt Lake City area?
Yeah, I live downtown. My dad and my mom always want us to move closer to them. They live more in the suburbs. They think that Salt Lake City is dangerous, but it's
Yeah,
it's definitely not dangerous compared to other big cities.
yeah,
And I mean, for the most part, our area could be considered seedy, but it really isn't scary. I feel comfortable walking outside at night by myself. So
good,
um, yeah, I live in downtown Salt Lake City.
nice.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you because you're very successful. You have a lot of people that follow you. Um, and I was looking at your Instagram, so that's kind of what I'm basing it off of. But regardless of Instagram, you're still successful in what you're doing. So I'm just curious, have you ever felt like you need to measure success? Or I guess a better way to phrase that is, what does success look like for you?
This is difficult
Mm-hmm.
because in the blogging world, I feel like I'm always viewing other people's success.
Right.
My competitors are often my friends. They're people that I interact with that I love. But if they get a brand deal and I don't, and we have the same niche, they're a competitor, right? And so it can be hard when you see them being more successful, getting more likes or engagement, growing faster. And so for me, when that happens, I have to take a step back and I need to remind myself to stay in my own lane, because when I'm worrying about other people's success, it takes away from me focusing on being creative. And so it's not that I don't want to celebrate their success. I do celebrate their success. It's just that I can't pay attention to the numbers, you know? I'm happy for them. I will celebrate with them, but like looking at people's numbers and
comparing a lot.
It's just not worth it. It just is a road that leads down the wrong path. And so it can be difficult in the blogging industry not to compare, but don't do it.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I feel like a lot of people typically will look at their peers and be like, oh, well, you know, they're doing that. Maybe I should be doing that. Or, you know, what should I change about myself so that I could be where this person is? So I feel that's really good advice.
Right. And just because somebody else is doing the same content like beauty and fashion as me doesn't mean that they have the same voice or the same style or even photography style as me. So it's important to focus on what I'm trying to create rather than being like them, because we're all individuals and that's what makes our content special.
Exactly. And what would you say are some of the essential tools someone would need to have a career as a blogger? So, you know, are there anything, because you were mentioning before that you use like your phone notes a lot to write things down. So are there any like specific tools in that sense that you recommend others using?
Yeah, you absolutely need a computer. You could do it from a phone, but I feel like it would be very tedious and hard to work with. You don't necessarily need a DSLR camera, a fancy, expensive camera. You could just use an iPhone or any type of phone. It doesn't have to be an iPhone. But I like to take a mixture of both of those because sometimes my iPhone capabilities aren't exactly what I need. And sometimes brands want a higher resolution photo that an iPhone can't give. So you don't need an expensive DSLR. Mine is not even, they call it a full frame when you get into the more expensive. I don't have a full frame camera. Mine is just one of the basic ones. I use a Canon Rebel T6i. So I really like that because a lot of times I'm taking photos by myself. So my husband works a full-time job and I've kind of trained him on how to take photos for me, but I don't always want to bother him and it's not his favorite pastime. So I will take it by myself, and paying a photographer isn't always an option just because of how much it costs. And so the Canon Rebel T6i is awesome because you can connect it to your phone via Bluetooth, and I can use my phone as a shutter. So I can use it like a remote. And I can also see myself on my phone, like as I'm posing in front of the camera, to see what I look like, and then hit. Yeah, it's awesome.
I didn't know it cost.
I know, it's amazing. I learned that just this past year and it's absolutely changed my selfie game.
Wow, that's great to know. And you said that's just like a Bluetooth thing. It's not like an app or anything.
Yeah, no, you as long as you get a camera that has Wi-Fi capabilities. I use a Canon. I don't know about other types of brands, but Canon specifically has an app that you can use to connect with your phone. And then, of course, you probably would want a tripod for that. But tripods are not too expensive. You can find cheaper ones.
Right. Totally. And I wanted to ask you something else. You know, from your experience, we talked a little bit about this being successful and, you know, that meaning different things for different people. But would you say what are maybe like 3 characteristics or skills someone should have so that they can be their own version of successful?
You have to have your own passion. That's not something that anybody else can put into you or enlist in you. You have to have that within yourself. So just a fire and a drive to do what you want to do. I think organization skills are important.
Yeah.
One of the industry things that people joke about is if you can't do it yourself, then hire it out. And organizing is something that if you are not capable of doing it yourself, you have to hire it out. You need somebody that can plan for you. Yeah. Organizing is really important for securing brand deals, keeping them, making sure clients are happy, and just keeping a posting schedule. So we have passion, we have
organization.
And the third one that I would say is probably the willingness to learn. I feel like I'm constantly learning new things. And if you're not willing to research by yourself or to make mistakes and, you know, kind of have that humbleness to be better, then you're not going to survive. You have to be willing to make mistakes and learn from them.
Yeah, those are great skills. Those are I was always like, oh, organization is a big one, but having a passion, I didn't even think of that of being something that a blogger should have. But like you said, it's important.
Yeah,
there's a
absolutely.
drive.
Yeah, because sometimes if you don't have that passion, it's easy to fall into, you know, the comparison game or to feel like you're not wanting to do this anymore. So why should you? Passion is what keeps me going.
Right. And I want to touch a little bit about, you know, the time management side of blogging, because, you know, I feel like if you really get into a post or a certain idea and you want to like invest all your time into it, do you ever find, like, do you have yourself kind of like schedule out times like, okay, I'm going to work from this hour to this hour? Because it's not like an office job where I'm going to clock in at 9 a.m. and clock out at 5 p.m. So is there a way that you kind of make sure you have boundaries set up?
Yeah, boundaries are difficult when you work for yourself, not just for blogging, any business. For me, I have to wake up if I don't wake up by 8:30 every morning, then I'm the day is basically wasted.
8:30. I don't even remember the last time I saw 8:30 on my phone. Good for you. Early start.
Well, thank you. For me, if I get up after 8:30, then I feel like my whole day is behind. And I like to try to make sure that I am all done with what I need to do by 8 p.m. That way I can spend time with my husband, because working for yourself can be so hard to balance relationships. And I never want him to feel like blogging goes before our relationship. And so it's important for me that I have time to spend with him every night. Boundaries for me might be like, I am not going to respond to any more DMs tonight because they can be responded to tomorrow. Or listen, I'm not going to respond to this email because, you know, it's after work hours. They're probably not in the office anymore anyway. So I will just respond tomorrow morning. But I also like to work on the weekend, because taking the entire weekend off kind of removes my passion. And it can be easy to be like, oh, this is nice. I would love to just watch RuPaul all day and sit in bed.
And you lose yourself in a RuPaul season.
Yeah, exactly. And so, setting boundaries for me is all about just, I don't know, my work hours differ, you know, especially working from home. I said I wake up early, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily get to work at that time. Sometimes I'm working out, or sometimes I, you know, walk around the house for an hour before I do anything. It's just about like getting into the schedule and allowing myself to be awake and in a mode of movement so that I feel productive.
That's great. I wish I need to get used to waking up early again, because since my semester ended, I've been like, okay, maybe 11 a.m., noon. One day I woke up at 2. I was like, oh my goodness, I need a life.
Don't worry. You're only 21. Like, live in those years for as long as you can.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah. I also wanted to ask you, in terms of the content that you're having right now, given the quarantine and given the COVID pandemic, is there a particular, you know, genre or area that you're kind of focusing on more recently?
In the beginning, when the virus first was affecting us so much, I was focusing more on at-home self-care type posts, but I think I've gotten back more into my normal type of content. So I don't think I'm focusing on one particular topic anymore, but when it first hit us, yeah, absolutely. It was all about self-care, taking care of mental health. Well, okay, I will say that right now I am focusing a lot on the Black Lives Matter movement, because racial injustice is a huge thing that should be talked about. And so I'm making sure that I'm constantly posting and talking about it so that it doesn't lose momentum, because it's easy to go back to normal. I know that we all are doing stuff in our own lives to help with racial injustice or any type of injustice, but we still need to talk about it on social media. So I am focusing on that more right now, just because I want to make sure that it doesn't go on.
Die down.
Yeah. We want it to still stay on the top of people's minds.
Yeah, that's great. For people tuning in, I think someone earlier asked what we were talking about. I think that was Michelangelo 3.14. If you're still with us, my name is Natalie Benoit, and I am hosting this Pink Talk segment with the blogger and social media influencer, Lauren Hawk. She runs the Lauryncakes blog, and you can follow her on Instagram and check out her blog. It's in your bio, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just giving a little bit of context. I hope you're still here with us so you could check that out. But I guess another thing I wanted to kind of touch on with you is, you know, have you seen yourself, you talked about this a little bit about seeing yourself kind of grow, but in what specific ways have you seen yourself grow as a professional?
I feel like I've grown so much. There's just so many different things that I have learned, but I would absolutely say that the biggest thing I've learned to do is to communicate with others and to understand where people are coming from. Blogging is such a social industry. I have to be able to listen to people, listen to their feedback, take critiques, not take it personal, and change what I'm doing. And so I think that will translate. Blogging is not going to be around forever. And so when I do eventually move back into a 9-to-5 job, I think that my ability to understand and take critiques is what's going to move me the farthest.
Yeah. So, you know, touching on that a little bit, you said that, so do you see yourself ever going back into teaching again or education?
I don't know. My grandma was a teacher. My mom is a kindergarten teacher. So my mom always is trying to convince me to go back to teaching. She's like, you taught high school, you need to try elementary school. I know you would love it. But I am a hands-off type of person. I don't like helping people tie shoes or getting boogers all over me.
I got you.
Yeah, and I've helped her with her classroom. I just don't know. Teaching is hard for me because I don't like feeling like there's a lot of red tape or hoops I need to jump through. And education, I almost called it an industry, which I guess it is. Education is kind of broken at the moment, and there's so much that needs to be revamped and fixed. And I felt like I couldn't do anything as a teacher because I had to fit all of my teaching within what was expected of me rather than teaching real life experiences with my kids. And so teaching was really mentally draining for me just because I felt like I couldn't make real change, you know, which is exactly why I was like, yeah, let's do blogging full time.
Because you felt like you can make more of an impact on people?
Yeah. And I wasn't held back or told like I wasn't held back.
Right. If anyone, you know, tuned in right now, you guys are so welcome to send in any questions. We are coming to an end of this lovely Pink Talks. I can't believe an hour already basically went by. This was a wonderful conversation I've had with you. It's been a pleasure to interview you.
You've been a great host. Congratulations on your first.
I know. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. I got to host the first Pink Talks of July, everyone. Tomorrow, we're actually having another segment. We do a couple of different broadcasts throughout the week. So tomorrow, we have a segment called Triniques, which is like a trend and a technique. And again, we go live. I think it's on just Facebook Live or the Facebook stream. And essentially, tomorrow we have Lyle, who is a drag queen by night, as said by their hashtag, or not their hashtag, their bio. So there's going to be a tutorial tomorrow on how to do drag makeup. So if anyone wants to check that out, I'm really excited. I'm going to tune in.
I will too. My husband and I are always talking about how drag queens are better at makeup than a lot of women we know. So I'm going to turn in for that.
Oh, great. I think, Kristen sent in a question. Hi, Kristen. She asked, what is your favorite beauty/style tip?
Well, recently I just realized how I could do wings. So
Oh,
my
nice.
favorite tip for eye makeup for learning to do wings is to use tape. I actually posted something on my Instagram, but I will put tape every single time I do wings because I don't have a steady hand. I put tape like this and then I draw the wing. And so I use that almost every single time.
Yeah, I've heard of doing that before, and I tried it one day, and I don't know, I think I placed it wrong because I think I put it too low. So all of a sudden, I had this really like liquidy black eyeliner running down my eye. It was atrocious. But do you recommend that I do it like completely like in line with the bottom lid, or kind of from the corner up?
So I put it from the corner and then I try to find it to go in line with, you know, where your lid has that
Yeah.
crease. I try to make it hit that crease because that's where I want the eyeliner to hit.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, and then I also like to make sure that I put the tape on my hand first and pull it off. That makes it less sticky so it doesn't pull off any of the other makeup I have on.
That's smart. Yeah, because I always, whenever I take it off, I put on like concealer, foundation, highlight. I put so much highlight on. I take it off and it looks like a giant patch of just like highlight is gone and I look so uneven.
I haven't figured out highlight yet, so
Yeah, I don't think I have, honestly, the way I apply it. It doesn't look like I know how to put on highlighter, but still fun.
yeah.
I want to ask you too, are there any other, tips or industry knowledge that you want to share with everybody that is with us right now?
Ooh, I think that it's important that you know what you want before you start posting a certain way. So find what you want to stand for, find your mission, find, I don't know, an aesthetic, and it makes it easier to create content if you have a point that you're trying to make.
Right. That's great. Well, I think I have
Thanks.
about a minute 30 left on this live Instagram, and we are still running on the Facebook live stream. Is there anything else that you want to share with everybody tonight, or just any tips or any information you want to put out there?
No, I appreciate everybody that turned out and watched this, and thank you for having me. It's been wonderful, and I feel honored that I was able to come on Pink Talks.
Of course, it was a pleasure having you. It's great to have all these empowering women come onto the shows and these segments specifically, because I feel like I personally learned a lot tonight just about blogging in general, but also just finding a new kind of resource or a new page that I could turn to if I want to, I don't know, like feel uplifted. I know a lot of your posts, like when I was going through it, has, made me feel a lot better. This week has been crazy for me. So getting to like know you, even just through social media or your blogs, has been a real pleasure.
Yeah, oh, thank you. And I guess one last thing I would make sure to say that no matter what you're doing, it's always okay to take a break from social media. I constantly have to reevaluate, is today a good day for me to post?
Right.
Am I in like the right mental state? Do I need a break? So especially with everything going on in the world, make sure that you're aware and that you know what's happening and you use your privilege in the right way, but don't forget to take breaks.
All righty. I think on Instagram it may have ended. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll finish it up here, but it has been so great to have you, Lauren. I'm going to keep up with you. We have another Pink Talks this Sunday at 9 p.m. again, both on IGTV and Facebook. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. My name is Natalie Benoit, and Lauren, if you want to drop your Instagram handle, go right ahead.
Okay. Where do I drop
that? You might be able to in the comments, but if you want to just say it out for everybody, that works too.
Okay. You can find me at Lauryncakes. Oh, there it is. It's showing up at the bottom.
There we go. Yay.
Yeah. My name is spelled weird. It's with a Y, kind of like Lauren Hill. So just make sure that you do that.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining me tonight, and thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yeah. Thank you, Natalie.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Yay.